Hi everyone, and welcome to today's Pearson Onscreen platform LAN training event. Thank you very much for attending this afternoon session. My name's Nathan Landry. I'll be taking you through the training today. I work for Pearson, of course, on the second line support technical team for the Pearson Onscreen platform software. As we go through the training today, unfortunately I won't be able to answer any questions as we go along, but if you do have questions, please can you post them in the chat window, and after today's session we'll collate those questions and we'll answer them and send you the answers tomorrow afternoon before 5 p.m. There will also be a recording of this session made available to you. Thank you. Okay. So as I said, it's the training today for the LAN software, and I'll just give you a rundown of what we're going to cover today. So we'll be looking at registration. That's initial setup before you can install and run the software. Test bookings using Edexcel Online. Installing the software, so that's just a brief overview of that process. I won't be going into that in too much depth. Of course, how to use it, most importantly. A bit about results as well, how you'll get and when you'll get your results. Special requirements and further support. And at the end, I'll go through some frequently asked questions. Okay, so the initial setup required to run the POP software or install the POP software is that you are required to complete a declaration form and return that to us so that we can set you up with an account and then send you the necessary installation details for the POP LAN software. So I'm just going to show you the declaration form. I'll just go back one there. So this is what the form looks like. As you can see, the form currently says which qualifications are you delivering on screen. Now, initially this was to determine which software you needed to install because, of course, POP is replacing the Promise ESM software. So as it stands, whichever one of these you tick now, we'll just be sending you the guidance for the POP software. You're also required to complete your centre details, so your centre name, your centre number, your name, so the exams officer or administrator for the centre, their name, email address and contact number. The IT administrator, we require their details as well. And at the end of the form, if you're particularly for work-based learning centres, if you require any other usernames, then there's a section on the form that you can complete there as well. So I'll just show you where you can find the form. If you just give me one moment. Okay, so this is the Pearson Qualifications website, qualifications.pearson.com. And I'll just show you how to find this form and further information about on-screen testing. So at the top of the page, you can see where it says support there. So if you just hover over that, where it says support for you, if you just select administrators, I'll just close that. Just scroll down the page a bit. Under support topics here on the left, if you hover over Centre Administration and then click on-screen testing, and the document is under this section here, on-screen testing next generation BTEC firsts. Not specific to next generation BTEC firsts, this is also for functional skills, but the form is here. So on-screen testing declaration form, that's the form we've just looked at. So as you can see, that's the path there to find that form. So once you've found it and completed it, then you need to return it to our account services team. So the email addresses are either examsofficers@pearson.com if you're a schools or FE centre, or wblcustomservices@pearson.com if you're a work-based learning centre. And someone from our account services team or your account specialist will create a login for you for the software. The login details will be emailed to you. I'll just show you briefly the kind of thing you can expect to receive from us. So something along these lines. Thanks for completing the Pearson on-screen platform declaration form, and so on. Most importantly here, username and password. Username is likely to be in this sort of format, and we will also create a unique password for you. And as you can see here, there's links to the installation guide, and that actually goes to the page that I was just showing you there as well. So after we email you back, your IT technician will need to install the software from the POP LAN in-depth installation guide. And if I show you that from here, in fact, if I just click on that there, this is the guide, okay? So this is what your IT technician will use. I'll show you the guide again shortly when we look at installation or have an overview of installation. Once the software is installed, so once your IT technician at your centre has installed the software, let us know. So just respond to the email or just send us an email requesting to book a demo test, and we'll be able to book that for you. So we'll book the demo test for you. We ask that you run the demo test. Now the reason for that proves that the software is installed correctly. So the demo test is run from your end. Once we receive the response file, so the demo response from you, back to our server, we can check that, and that proves that you have a connection between us and you, or you and us, and therefore you're able to run live tests. So once you've completed the demo test, please let us know. And then once we can see that you've completed it at our end, so once we can see that response file on our server, we will authorize your center for live test bookings. So at the moment, perhaps if you weren't set up to run the software and you tried to make a test booking for a test, for a functional skills or BTEC test using the POP software, you might get an error message saying that you're not authorized. And that's maybe or most likely because you haven't run a demo test and we haven't been able to check that. Okay, so I'm going to show you now how to make test bookings. So there was a video in this slide here, but I'm not going to show you that. I'm going to show you on Edexcel Online. So if you just give me a moment. If I go into Edexcel Online here, so this is our dummy center that we use, and I'll just show you how to make a functional skills on-screen test booking. Now some of you may well already be familiar with this process, but I just want to show you just a slight change, which is the difference between Promiser and the POP software. So on the left of the screen, if I go to select qualification, look for functional skills, select functional skills. Again on the left, I'm looking for FS on demand and on-screen test. select book a test, and then we have this screen here. So we're looking for the program and the test that we wish to book. So if I select the program, in this instance, functional skills English, level 1 and 2, and the test. So this is the difference here. So you'll notice you're either booking for Pearson Onscreen platform or Promise at ESM. Now in the transitional time until the Promise at ESM software is decommissioned, that'll be in November. So for that time, that's why there are these two options here. So you can either book tests for Pearson Onscreen platform, or for those centres who still have Promiser installed, you can book tests on that software. But you will need to install the Pearson Onscreen platform before the 26th of November, so that you can run all your future functional skills tests on this particular software. So in this instance, we're going to select Pearson Onscreen platform, select the venue, which is test taken at centre if you are at the centre, or it could be test taken outside of centre if you happen to be running this particular software in offline mode, which is different. We're not covering that today. That's another presentation. So we're going to select test taken at centre because we're using the LAN software. Also to note here, if you have previously used the Promise ESM software and you are used to booking tests here, you will also notice your old venue ID still in the list. Don't select that. If you can help it, please select test taken at centre. So the test date, if we select a date, select tomorrow at 10 AM. And if I search for a candidate, select this year's registrations and click next, and then a candidate appears. So obviously, going back to that screen just there that I clicked on, that would bring up all the candidates under a K registration. For these purposes, we've just got one example candidate registered. So if I select them and click submit, and that's the test booking made. So just to note, if you're making bookings on the day of the test, you must leave a minimum of 2 hours before the actual time of the test. So if I'm booking a test now for today, this afternoon, I would need to book the test for 4:15 basically, or well, it's in half-hour increments on Edexcel Online, so it'd be 4:30 now, and I'd have to wait a minimum of 2 hours before that test can come through and take it, and the student can take it. For tests booked well in advance, you can book quite far in advance on Edexcel Online. You can book tests several months in advance, but the tests won't appear in the software in the administrator dashboard, which I'm going to cover shortly, until 96 hours or 4 days before the scheduled test time. Okay, so I hope everyone's clear about test bookings. Now we're just going to, as the presentation goes on, there's a few poll questions that I'm going to ask. So there's one now and there's a couple more shortly. So I'm just going to launch this, and if you could please answer this for me, just give me a moment. Okay, so if you could answer that for me, and that's, where do you email your completed declaration form back to? Your account specialist, equality nominee, or do you send it back to us in the post? So I'm just going to give you a minute or so to answer that. Thank you. Okay, that's great. Thanks very much for answering that question. So I'm just going to close that and then share the result with you. And it is, of course, back to your account specialist. Okay. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of installation of the software. This software consists of 4 components. There's what we call the Exam Center service, which is a service that runs in the background. It doesn't have an interface as such. It just installs a shared folder and a service on your server, or it can be installed on a network computer as well. I'll just show you the guide again. So if we go back into the POP LAN in-depth guide, I'm not going to go too in-depth, as I said before, but this is what your IT technician needs to know, okay? So there's a few pages here which they'll need to look at. So technical requirements, there's information about that. There's some information about minimum specifications for the computers that you need. So Exam Center service, administrator dashboard, and test player. I'm going to cover those shortly. Information about network and machine setup, but most importantly, really, what they'll need upon initial installation is if when they go to page 8, the installer is found here. So this installation file, it's not something we send out to you on a CD or anything like that. It is easily accessible through this document on our website. As soon as you click here, that will download the installer, and that installer has all the necessary information and components needed to install and run the software. Obviously, when your IT technician is installing, if they can follow this guide, and that will give them all the information they need to install it. It is fairly straightforward, but there is some information in there which they might need to know in terms of setup. So that was just a brief overview of the Exam Center service. As I say, there's no interface, there's nothing you can actually see. But what you will be looking at is the administrator dashboard. So this is the component which should be installed on your computer or an administrator's computer, and it's where you download the tests and assign tests to invigilators, and of course prepare the tests. The other component is the Invigilator dashboard. So this component or piece of software should be installed on a computer in the rooms where tests are taking place, and only one Invigilator dashboard is required per room. And then finally, the test player. This is where the students sit the tests. So this piece of software needs to be installed on all your student test machines. So if you imagine a setup in your center, you may have a computer suite with several computers. That's where your test player software is going. You might have a laptop or a PC at the front of the room perhaps. That's where the Invigilator dashboard would be. And then in your office maybe you've got a PC, and that's where you'd install Administrator Dashboard. Now Exam Center Service, the first component we talked about, some centers do have dedicated servers to run this kind of software from. So you can install it there, but it's not strictly necessary. The Exam Center Service can go on any computer that's on your network and has access to the internet. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So one more poll question before we go into the main section of this presentation really, which is the use of the software. So I'm just going to share the next one with you. If I launch that, I hope you can see that. So this is where should the administrator dashboard be installed. So on a student's PC, on the exams officer's PC, or on your tablet. Okay, so I'll just give you a minute to answer that. Thank you. Okay, everyone, thanks very much for answering that question. And the correct answer is, of course, on the exams officer's PC. Okay, so moving on. So we're going to look at the use of the software now. And I'm going to show you the software live from my laptop here. So if you just give me a sec, I'm just going to open up the administrator dashboard. Okay, so that's my desktop, and this is what the software looks like once it's installed. Administrator dashboard is this icon here, so it's just a computer or an image of a computer. Invigilator dashboard, for some reason, is some kind of wizard's hat with a magic wand. Not quite sure why they picked that for Invigilator. And then test player is a blue globe with a lightning strike through it. So administrator dashboard, if I double click onto that and launch the software, this is the initial page that you're presented with. So in here, you would enter your username and password that was sent back to you in the email that we looked at earlier. So if I enter that, now you look here, so there's a language section that'll just default to English. Server, this is where the exam centre service is installed. So in this instance, it's installed on my computer here, this laptop, so that's the name of this particular laptop. If it was installed on a different machine somewhere else in the building, then it would be that particular computer name, okay? So this is something your IT technician can set up for you. Usually though, once the software is installed on the network, it will automatically find it. If it doesn't, you can refresh the list, or you can manually add the computer name here. So if I just log into the software here, click login, and then the initial screen here is what you're presented with. So these are what the tests look like. These are the test orders that come through from Edexcel Online, and this is how they appear in the administrator dashboard. So the first thing that you need to do before you can actually prepare or download any tests is create a new Invigilator. So on the left of the screen here, where it says Invigilators, if I just click create new, and then I need to import an Invigilator name, the name of the Invigilator, and this can be generic. So if you have Invigilators who you need to use the same logins, then you can have generic logins for them. If I create a password, and then tick as active, and that means they can log in to the Invigilator dashboard. And then I just click Create. If I go back to List Invigilators, I can see the invigilator that I've just created. If I wish to delete the invigilator, I just click on the bin icon here, or if I wish to reset the password, if I've forgotten the password, if I just click Set Password, and then I can enter a brand new password here. It doesn't actually say on here, but the format for the password is a minimum of 8 characters. It must include a capital letter and a number and a special character. So if I just close that, and then I need to create a new room. So on the left again, if I click on Create New Room, very straightforward. Type in the room name, assign it to my invigilator, and then just click Create. Okay, so we haven't actually got a test booked for today, so if you just give me 1 minute, I'm just going to get a test booked, and then it will appear in the administrator dashboard. Okay, so I've just booked a test, a demo test for our dummy center. So I can't see that test in the list yet, so I'm just going to change the dates here, change it to today's date, click search, and there we go. Our test for today, our demo test for today has appeared. So the next stage is to download and prepare the test. So you'll see here these icons. So we have status. This is the test package that's available. That's available to download from our server. And then we have an action. So the next action is download package. So if I click download, package downloaded, click OK, go back to my orders here. My status has changed to package downloaded, and the action is activate package. So if I click activate, click activate, package activated, and the order number is there. Click OK, and then back to orders. Status changes again here to package activated, and then the next action is to prepare assessment. So if I click on prepare assessment here, and I need to assign these learners to the room. So I need to do it on this side of the screen. So if I select the room here, notice as I select it, the arrows on the left here become highlighted, so just click on them. The room appears. I then need to select the room, so it's highlighted in blue. So even though there's only one room here, the reason for that is if I had more than one room, I'd need to select which one I wanted to put the learners into. So I've selected the room, and now I need to put the learners in the room. So if I press Control A, that'll select all of these learners, these demo learners, and then I transfer them over with the arrows here. Now, if it's a real live test and there's learners that haven't turned up, you'd still need to allocate them to the room at this point, because you can then mark them as absent on the Invigilator dashboard. So I've allocated the learners to the room, and the next stage is to save that. you'll also notice here that it says print learner logins. So from this stage on the administrator dashboard, I can print the logins for the learners. I can also print them from the Invigilator dashboard, because after I save this, that option disappears. So if I click Save Configuration, the orders allocation stated as being saved. Click OK, and then click Activate Assessment. Assessment allocation activated successfully. Click OK. Back to orders, and so it changes again here. My status is assessment allowed, and the action is monitor learner progress. So I can see the list of learners there, so they're ready to start their tests after we've logged into the Invigilator dashboard and started them. So that's it. The setup on Administrator dashboard is now finalized. No edits or changes can be made from here. Once you've got to this stage, you can then proceed to logging into the Invigilator dashboard. So if I log in there, so there's my Invigilator dashboard icon or shortcut. So if I double click to log in, and there we go, Pearson Onscreen Platform Invigilator dashboard. Very similar login screen to the Administrator dashboard. So my login name, Invig1, and then the password that I created as well. So just remember, going back to Administrator dashboard, you create the login for the Invigilator. If for any reason you forget the password, just remember that you can change it on the Administrator dashboard. So if I click login, so not much to see here, but on the left of the screen you can see the test order. So that's the test that I've just finished preparing. So if I click on that, the test now appears. So there are some different actions I can take from the Invigilator dashboard. Of course, start the test, mark learners as absent or present, and print logins. So to mark a learner absent, very straightforward. I just select the learner and click mark as absent. Now, because of the way the software works, I can't show you the test player live because it locks the screen out, you see, for the security of the tests. So what I'll need to do is I'll go back to the presentation and I'll show you a video of what the test player looks like and how it connects to the Invigilator. Okay, so there's no test player login on this computer, so I can't show you these connectivity and exam states live as such. So I'm just going to show you this video now. So I'll go back to the presentation and show you how that works. So Invigilator dashboard. This is the test player login screen, okay? So this is what the learner logs into with their learner number and order number. So they confirm who they are and then they're logged in. So you notice here it says in order to proceed the Invigilator must start the test. So thinking back to the Invigilator dashboard, that's where the start test button is. So there we go. So the learner's state is online and awaiting approval. Sorry about that, I just lost that video there. Just go back. And from the Invigilator dashboard, we select Start Test here. And then on the learner's screen, so on their test player, that message, the previous message disappears and the Start Test button appears so they can independently start their test. And you can notice that the exam state changes to in progress once they've started. If I just go back to the Invigilator dashboard, which I was showing you previously, So Invigilate a dashboard, so that was what we were looking at, starting the test there, and the status is changing. When you do start a test, you're not starting the test for the individual learner. When you select one or press start at the top, it will start the test overall. Well, what that basically means is the start test button appears for everyone, but it doesn't automatically start their tests. They won't start their tests until they press start, so until they're ready. Of course, they'll all be starting at approximately the same time, but they won't actually start until they press the start test button. Okay. So this video briefly shows you how to mark candidates as absent. Very straightforward. As I just showed you before, select the candidate and just select mark as absent. And then if they turn up, you can select them and click mark as present. So I'm going to show you the test player now. Like I said, obviously I can't show you that live, so I'm going to show you the videos that we have for that. So once the learners press start test, this is what the test will look like. This is of course the demo test. So this is proving that this particular laptop or student test machine can support and run this piece of software. Question types are relatively straightforward, as you can see there. Some questions require a calculator, and if they do, a calculator will appear on the bottom left-hand side of the screen. If that question does not require a calculator, there will be no calculator symbol on the screen. And then if the student wants to, they can copy to working out box as well on the top right-hand side. I'm just going to forward this on a little bit. Some tests, a few tests, do have a video question. Not many, but there are some that do. The reason for including, that's the reason it's included in the demo test. And all it's proving is that those test players can support a video question. I think the very basic software is required. I think it just Windows Media Player is required in order to run any video questions. So once they get to the end of the test, I'll just skip back a little bit. They just need to click complete. Once completed, that test response will be sent back to our server. It also stays within your center on your network in a shared folder which has the responses in. So if there's ever a problem receiving responses, we can always recover them directly from you. So just a quick look as well at accessibility settings for the test player. Now, because these are on-screen tests, we can't send out modified papers as such, but there is a zoom function available. When you zoom in, it keeps the quality and integrity of the question, so it doesn't pixelate or anything like that if you zoom right in. You're also able to change the color of the screen if required for the learner. You can turn on tooltips as well, and that will tell you what each function does on the test player. Just going to pause it there. Oh. Right, just pause it there. I don't know if you can see there, but at the very bottom left-hand side of the accessibility settings icon, it says Enable Screen Reader. Now, unfortunately, this software has not yet been developed to work with any screen readers that are currently available. That is something that's in future development, though. But at the moment, the Enable Screen Reader option does not work for Pearson on-screen platform test player. And of course, there's a help section as well. Okay, so that's the accessibility settings for test player. And there's just one more poll question before we go on to the last part of the presentation. So I'm just going to launch that now, if you could answer this for me. So if I click launch, and if you could answer that, I'll just give you a minute to answer that question. Where can you mark a learner as absent? On a JCQ Form 10, call customer services, or in the Invigilator dashboard? Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for answering. And of course, the correct answer is the Invigilator dashboard. So we're going to look at results now. So just give you an overview of results. So results for these tests, it will take 28 to 56 days for tests marked by an examiner. So even though they're on-screen tests, part of the test still needs to be marked by a person, if you like. They can't be computer marked. So the tests are sent off, and that's the reason for that time. So the shortest time you could expect to receive a response or a result for a candidate is 28 days, and the longest during the busy times of the year can be up to 56 days. For any multiple choice tests, which are computer marked, it's just 1 to 5 days, normally about 24 hours. Okay, and the results are delivered to your Edexcel Online mailbox and are viewable via the on-screen test menu on Edexcel Online. There is also an inquiries about results service. So we have an EAR1, which is a clerical check, which you can request within 10 days of receiving the results. You'll get a response from us within 20 days. We have all our latest fees on our website. We have an EAR2 as well, which is a review of marking. Request that within 10 days and you'll receive a response within 30 days. More information about this is on the website, so I'm just going to show you where you can actually view that. Okay, so going back to the page that we visited earlier, there's some more documentation on here. So we looked at the on-screen testing declaration form before. If I just scroll down a bit, I've got some more documents here, including the LAN in-depth guide. But what we've just been talking about then, the post-result services guide. So if I have a look at that, that gives you all the information you need on how to request EARs for on-screen tests. Okay, there is a reset option available, which is only available after receiving the results, and resits are booked in exactly the same manner through Edexcel Online as brand new test bookings. So we're just going to have a look at special requirements, and access arrangements for on-screen tests, which consist of access arrangements and special considerations, I should say. So access arrangements need to be approved before the exam. So for extra time, so more than 25%, so if you just need 25%, you can select 25% when making the test booking on Edexcel Online. If a candidate needs more than that, then you need to make an application to us, and you need to apply 15 days before the exam. And it's valid for 2 years. Special considerations were approved after the exam, and will ensure a candidate is given compensation for any specific difficulties during that test. And the way to apply for special considerations is just through the JCQ website using the Form 10, which I'm sure many of you will be familiar with. So a little bit about further support, and then like I said before, there's some FAQs which I'll be able to go through with you. Guides and videos are available through our website. Again, if I just go back to the page that I was showing you before. So these are the documents, important documents for the POP software. There's a video library here, tells you how to install the Exam Center service, admin dashboard and Invigilator dashboard, and test player. Videos on how to create rooms in Invigilators and how to prepare the assessment, and of course how to run a demo and how to mark candidates as absent. So lots of information there and support if you need that. So further support, you'll notice our phone number has changed slightly. It's now, for schools and FE customers, it's 0344 463 2535. Please email examsofficers@pearson.com. For work-based learning customers, your telephone number is 0344 576 0045, or email wblcustomerservices@pearson.com. There is also a live chat facility available through our website, which I know some IT technicians prefer to use rather than picking up the phone to us. So I'll just show you where that is. If I go back to our website now. And as you can see, so just underneath those videos that I was just showing you, where they are, just here, says live chat. So if you click on there, someone from my team will be online, and then we'll be able to answer your questions that way as well. Okay, so throughout the presentation, as I said, I'm sorry I've not been able to answer your questions as we've been going along. If you've got any more questions, please continue to type them into the chat window, and we will answer them tomorrow and send you the responses tomorrow evening. But for now, just for the end of the presentation here, I'm just going to go through some FAQs with you. So first one, when is the cut-off date for the Promiser ESM software? So I mentioned this earlier, it's the 26th of November. You can run both Promiser and POP software. After the 26th, when Promiser ESM is decommissioned, you will not be able to run any tests on ESM at all. Next question, can we run both POP and ESM tests at the same time? Yes, you can. You can have both installations on your computers and they won't interfere with each other. Next question. We already use POP for BTEX. Do we need to complete and send you another declaration form? No. If you already have completed one declaration form, you don't need to send us another one because you'll be able to use your existing login details. The only difference is you'll be making bookings against the functional skills menu in Edexcel Online and selecting POP, of course. Okay, next question. We already use POP for BTEX. Will we need to reinstall and do a new demo test if we want to deliver functional skills, or can we just continue to use the software? So if you already use the POP software, you don't need to reinstall, as all your tests on Edexcel Online will appear under your current login. Can we have a generic login for all our invigilators? Yes, you can, but if you have multiple rooms where the test is taking place, you will need as many invigilator logins as you have rooms. So when we looked before at setting up an invigilator and setting up rooms, if you've got more physical rooms with installations of invigilator dashboard, you will need to create an invigilator for each of those rooms. I didn't mention this actually. What is the time window for the test to be completed? So when a test is booked for a scheduled time, it's 4 hours either side of that time that the test can be completed. So if you're booking a test for midday, perhaps, you've got until from 8 AM till 4 PM for the student to complete that test. After that, it'll be outside of the time window. Can we pause the test if there is an emergency, fire alarm, etc.? Yes, there is a pause button on the invigilator dashboard, but if it is an emergency such as a fire, then obviously it's best just to leave the building. Don't worry too much about pausing the test because you can always apply for special considerations afterwards. Question, can we have all POP components, exam center service, administrator dashboard, invigilator dashboard and test player on the same computer? No, test players need to be on separate computers because they lock out the screen, run in full screen mode. But you can have administrator dashboard, invigilator and exam center service on the same PC if needed. So the minimum amount of computers you need to run using this POP LAN setup is 2 computers. And how long in advance can we download or prepare the test? So I mentioned this before, it's 96 hours, 4 days before the scheduled time. Okay, so that's it for now. Thanks very much for attending the training today. I hope you found it useful. I'm going to leave the session open for until 3 o'clock for any more questions. So if you can think of anything, please ask the question in our chat window and then we'll send you the answers tomorrow. But for now, thank you very much for attending today's training. Thanks.